Ever catch yourself like trying to control things that are totally out of your hands? You know, like you're putting all this energy into making something happen, but it's just not. It's just not happening. You know what I mean? The other day, I was planning this whole dinner party, for some friends, like homemade pasta, fancy dessert, the whole 9 yards. But then, wouldn't you know it, huge storm rolls in, power goes out, and my perfect evening, poof, gone, literally up in smoke. I was so frustrated. Like, why me? Why tonight? But then I remember this book I was reading, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, and it really got me thinking, this whole idea of let them, it's all about accepting that you can't control other people, their actions, their thoughts, their feelings, or even the weather for that matter. So about recognizing, those things that are outside of your control. It's like letting them be. The second part of the equation is let me. And this part is about focusing on what you can control, your reactions, your responses, your attitude. So instead of freaking out about the power outage, I decided to just like embrace the chaos. We lit some candles, ordered pizza, ended up having a cozy, totally unplanned, impromptu game night. The book really emphasizes that when we try to force things, we just end up creating more resistance, more stress. But when we let go of that need to control, we open ourselves up to new possibilities and maybe even a better time.
Right. Robbins calls this idea stepping off the seesaw. You know how seesaws work, right? And one side goes down, the other goes up. Well, she says that when we react negatively to something someone else is doing, it's like we're giving them all the weight on that seesaw. We're giving them the power to control our emotions. But when we choose to let them be, we're essentially stepping off the seesaw altogether. We're taking back our power, our peace of mind. It's a simple concept. It's pretty profound when you think about it, right? One story from the book that really stuck with me was about Robin's son and his prom night. Prom was supposed to be his like magical night, right? Well, her son Oakley was leaving everything to the last minute. I mean, last minute tux rental, no dinner reservations, the whole 9 yards. And naturally, she was stressed. But then she realized she couldn't make him plan ahead. She couldn't control his choices. So she decided to let him handle things his way. And you know what? Despite the lack of planning and a sudden downpour, they all ended up having an amazing time. The kids were splashing in puddles, laughing, just enjoying being together. It just goes to show that sometimes letting go of our expectations and embracing the unexpected can lead to the best memories. This whole let them thing isn't just about letting go of control over other people, though. It's also about letting go of control over situations, outcomes, even our own thoughts and feelings, right? Robbins talks about this in the context of her own career. There was this one time when she was passed over for a promotion that she was like totally qualified for. And I think we've all been there, right? You work hard, you put in the effort, and then someone else gets the recognition. It's frustrating, to say the least. But instead of getting caught up in the unfairness of it all, she decided to let them have their decision. She realized she couldn't control what her bosses did, but she could control how she responded. So she focused on what she could do. Polish up her resume, network with people, start exploring new opportunities. Basically, she took her energy and channeled it into finding a job where her talents would be appreciated. It's such a powerful example of how let them isn't about giving up. It's about taking your power back and focusing on what you can influence. And one of the most insightful parts of the book, I thought, was this concept of frame of reference. It's about understanding that everyone sees the world through their own unique lens, shaped by their experiences, their beliefs, values, all that stuff. Robin shares this story about how her own mother initially disapproved of her husband, Chris. And at first she was really hurt and confused. Like, why doesn't her mom like this guy, But then she started thinking about her mom's frame of reference. Her mom had been married to a man who wasn't, the nicest guy. And she was worried that Robbins would end up in a similar situation, that she'd get hurt. And once she understood that, it totally changed her perspective. It wasn't about her mom being right or wrong. It was about understanding where she was coming from. And it allowed her to approach the situation with more empathy, compassion. It really made me think about all the times I've judged people without really understanding their story.
There was this one time I met this woman at a party, and she was, well, let's just say she was a little intense. She was talking a mile a minute, interrupting people. And I just remember thinking, wow, this woman has a lot to handle. But later I found out that she was going through a really tough time. Her husband had just left her. She was struggling financially, and she's just to cope. Yeah, trying to cope. And I realized that my judgment of her was totally unfair. I had no idea what she was going through, what her frame of reference was. It's such an important reminder, right? That before we judge someone, we need to try to understand their story, because everyone is fighting a battle we know nothing about. Now, this whole let them philosophy isn't just about dealing with difficult people or situations. It's also about letting go of expectations in our relationships, especially friendships, right? Because let's be real, adult friendships are hard. And think about it, we're all juggling so much work, family, commitments. It's easy to let those friendships slip away. Like, I remember when I first moved to a new city after college, I was so excited to start a new chapter. But I was also really nervous about making friends, And I put so much pressure on myself to find my tribe right away. I went to all these meetups, networking events, you name it, but it just felt forced, awkward, you know. And then one day I was at the park walking my dog, and I started chatting with this woman who had a dog too. We just clicked. We started walking our dogs together regularly, grabbing coffee. Before I knew it, we were close friends. And it made me realize that friendships aren't something you force. They just happen. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just let them evolve naturally. Robbins talks about this in the book too. She says that adult friendships require flexibility because, well, life happens, right? People move, careers change, families grow. And it's easy to feel like those friendships are slipping away. But she encourages us to, let go of the expectation that friendships have to stay the same. Let them evolve naturally. And sometimes that means letting go of friendships that no longer serve you too. It's about recognizing that it's okay for friendships to change. And that sometimes that changes for the best. Now, what about those times when we do want to influence someone, but in a positive way, right? Like maybe we have a friend who's making unhealthy choices, or a partner who's not pulling their weight. How do we approach those situations with a let them mindset? Well, Robbins talks about this too. She says that the key is to focus on influence, not control. It's about modeling the behavior we want to see, setting boundaries, and creating a supportive environment. Like, I remember this one time my friend was going through a really rough breakup, and she was, let's just say she wasn't taking care of herself. She was staying up late, not eating, just not doing well, And I really wanted to help her. But I knew that lecturing her or telling her what to do would just push her away. So I just tried to be there for her. I'd invite her over for healthy meals. We'd go on walks. I just tried to create a space where she felt safe and supported. And it wasn't always easy. There were times when I wanted to shake her and say, snap out of it. But I knew that wouldn't help. So I just kept showing up, kept being there for her. And eventually she started to pull herself out of that dark place. And it really should be the power of influence, that sometimes the best way to help someone is to just be there for them, support them, and let them find their own way. Robbins actually has this really cool concept called the ABC loop for influencing positive change in others. It stands for apologize, ask, back off behavior, and celebrate change. So the first step is to apologize for any past pressure or judgment you might have put on them. Then you ask open-ended questions to understand their perspective. Next, you back off and give them space to process, while continuing to model the behavior you want to see. And finally, you celebrate their progress, no matter how small, and encourage positive change. It's such a great framework for approaching these situations with empathy and understanding, because ultimately we can't control other people's choices, but we can create an environment that supports their growth. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What about those really tough situations, like when someone you love is struggling with addiction or mental health issues? I mean, those are situations where it feels like we need to control the outcome right. We want to fix it, make it better. But Robbins makes a really important point. You can't want their well-being more than they do. And that's a tough pill to swallow, because when you love someone, you just want to protect them from pain, to make things better for them. But the reality is, you can't force someone to get better. You can't control their choices. What you can do is offer unconditional love and support. You can create a safe space for them to heal. You can be there for them without judgment and let them know that you love them no matter what. And sometimes that's the most powerful thing you can do. Now, before we wrap up, I want to touch on one more area where let them can be super helpful. Dating and relationships. Because let's be honest, dating can be a minefield, right? We've all had those experiences where we're overthinking everything, trying to decipher mixed signals, and basically driving ourselves crazy. Robin's advice is simple. Let people's behavior reveal how they truly feel about you. In other words, pay attention to their actions, not just their words, because actions speak louder than words, right? It's about recognizing your worth and not settling for less than you deserve. It's about letting go of those who aren't truly invested and making space for those who are. Now I know what you might be thinking. What about those long-term relationships where there are those nagging issues that just never seem to go away, Those little annoyances that can turn into big resentments over time. Well, Robbins has some advice for that too. She says that when you're dealing with a deal breaker in a relationship, you have two choices. You either decide to end your complaining and fully accept the person as they are, or you decide to end the relationship. And that's a tough one, right? Because no one's perfect. And every relationship has its challenges. But sometimes we get so caught up in trying to change our partners, to fix those little things that bug us, that we forget to appreciate the good stuff, So I've been thinking a lot about this whole let them theory since reading Robbins' book. And honestly, it's been kind of a game changer for me. It's not that it's only become this perfectly zen, let it all go kind of person. I mean, I still get stressed. I still get frustrated. I'm human, right? But I'm definitely more aware of those times when I'm trying to control things that are, well, ultimately out of my control. And I'm working on, letting go a little more, trusting the process, and focusing on what I can influence. Because here's the thing. When we try to force things, to control everything and everyone around us, we just end up creating more resistance, more stress, and ultimately more unhappiness. But when we choose to let them be, whether it's a person, a situation, or even our own thoughts and feelings, we open ourselves up to a whole new level of peace, freedom, and even joy. Imagine you're whitewater rafting down a raging river, right? You could try to fight the current, to paddle upstream, to force the river to go your way, but you're just going to exhaust yourself, and you're probably going to end up capsizing. But if you learn to work with the current, to trust the flow of the river, well, you might just find yourself enjoying the ride, and that's what let them is all about, It's about surrendering to what is, accepting the things we can't change, and focusing our energy on what we can. It's about letting go of the need to control and embracing the freedom that comes with acceptance. So where in your life could you benefit from a little more? Let them. What are you holding on to too tightly? What expectations are you clinging to that are just causing you stress and frustration? And maybe it's a relationship that's no longer serving you, or a job that's draining your energy, or maybe it's just your own internal critic, that voice in your head that's constantly telling you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, whatever it is. I encourage you to try a little experiment. Just for today, choose to let them be. Let go of the need to control, to change, to fix, and just see what happens. You might be surprised at the peace and freedom you find. And remember, it's not about being passive or giving up. It's about choosing your battles wisely, focusing your energy where it matters, and creating a life that's aligned with your values and your vision. So let them be them, let me be me. And in that space of acceptance, maybe, just maybe, we could all find a little more peace, a little more joy, and a little more love.